Donald Trump, a life story. Donald J. Trump is an American businessman, television personality, and politician who served as the 45th President of the United States from January 20, 2017 to January 20, 2021. His life story has been the subject of intense public scrutiny, controversy, and debate, and he has been a divisive figure in American politics. Early life and family background. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946 in Queens, New York City to Fred and Mary Trump. His father was a real estate developer, and his mother was a housewife. Donald was the fourth of 5 children in his family. Family background. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946, in the Jamaica Estates neighborhood of Queens, New York City. He is the fourth of 5 children born to Fred Trump and Mary Ann McLeod Trump. Parents. Fred Trump. Fred was a New York real estate developer and businessman of German descent. Born in the Bronx, he began a career in real estate with his mother Elizabeth Trump, founding E. Trump Son. The company focused primarily on middle-income housing across Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. Fred Trump was a significant influence on Donald, who often cites his father's work ethic and business acumen as foundational to his own approach to business. Mary Ann McLeod Trump. Mary Ann was born in Scotland and immigrated to the United States in 1930. She married Fred Trump in 1936 and became a U.S. citizen in 1942. She was primarily a housewife, but also assisted in her husband's real estate business, handling various administrative tasks. Siblings. Mary Ann Trump Barry. The eldest sibling, Mary Ann is a retired federal judge who served on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit. Fred Trump Jr. Fred Jr., Donald's older brother, struggled with alcoholism and died at an early age. His premature death had a significant impact on Donald, who frequently mentions that the loss influenced his decision to abstain from alcohol and tobacco. Elizabeth Trump Grow. Elizabeth is a retired executive from Chase Manhattan Bank and largely stays out of the public eye. Robert Trump. The youngest sibling, Robert was an executive in the Trump Organization. He died in 2020. Early life and education. With Donald Trump was sent to the New York Military Academy at the age of 13, reportedly due to behavioral issues. His parents hoped that the military school would instill discipline and help channel his energy in a more focused manner. NYMA. Trump participated in various extracurricular activities and showed an early inclination toward leadership, rising to the rank of captain during his senior year. After his graduation from NYMA in 1964, Trump enrolled in Fordham University in the Bronx. He transferred to the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania 2 years later, reportedly because he wanted to explore business studies and real estate in particular. At Wharton, Trump was not notably active in campus activities, focusing primarily on his studies. He graduated in 1968 with a Bachelor of Science degree in economics. Trump was eligible for the military draft during the Vietnam War, but received medical deferments due to a diagnosis of bone spurs in his heels. Donald Trump's educational journey started in Queens, New York, before taking him to prestigious schools and eventually leading him into the world of business. Q Forest School. Trump initially attended the Q Forest School, a private preparatory school in Forest Hills, Queens. Little is known about his academic performance there, but by his own account and reports from former teachers and classmates, Trump was energetic but also prone to behavior that some considered disruptive. New York Military Academy. Due to behavioral issues, Trump was enrolled in the New York Military Academy in Cornwall-on-Hudson, New York, at the age of 13. NYMA is a college preparatory institution that combines academic education with military discipline. Donald Trump thrived in this structured environment and became active in both academics and extracurricular activities. According to accounts, he performed well academically and was active in various sports like baseball, soccer, and wrestling. He also showed leadership qualities, rising to the rank of captain in his senior year. His experience at NYMA had a lasting impact and gave him a grounding in leadership and discipline that he often cites in his later life. Fordham University. After graduating from NYMA, Trump enrolled at Fordham University in the Bronx. He attended Fordham for 2 years but did not complete his degree there. The reasons for his transfer from Fordham to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania are not entirely clear, but Trump has mentioned that he wanted to pursue a more business-oriented education. Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. In 1966, Trump transferred to the Wharton School, the business school of the University of Pennsylvania, Penn, an Ivy League institution. He was admitted as a special student in the Real Estate Studies program, which was, at the time, one of the few such academic programs in the United States and was run as part of Wharton's finance department. He graduated in 1968 with a Bachelor of Science in Economics. Though he has often stated that he was at the top of his class at Wharton, there's little evidence to support that claim, and former classmates have offered different recollections. For politicianally, Trump wasn't notably involved in campus activities or organizations, focusing instead on his studies and, it appears, on the broader social and business network that Penn could offer. Military deferments. During his time at Wharton, the United States was deeply involved in the Vietnam War, and as a young man of draft age, Trump was subject to military service. However, he received 5 deferments from the draft, 4 for education and 1 for a medical condition, born spurs in his heels. Impact of education on career. Donald Trump often cites his education at Wharton as a foundational experience that prepared him for his career in business. He refers to Wharton as the best school in the world and uses his degree as a credential to bolster his image as a savvy businessman. While there's some debate over how much Trump's education shaped his business acumen, it did offer him an early introduction to real estate and finance, which would become the cornerstones of his career. This educational journey provided Trump with not just academic knowledge, but also a form of social capital, exposing him to networks and opportunities that would be instrumental in his later business ventures. Donald Trump's business career is extensive, covering real estate, entertainment, branding, and even politics. It spans several decades and is characterized by a mix of high-profile successes, controversies, and failures. Real estate ventures. Early years. Donald Trump's early years in the real estate business were an extension of his father Fred Trump's work, but also a launching pad for his own more ambitious ventures. Here's a deeper look into those formative years. Joining Trump's son. After graduating from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania in 1968, Donald Trump joined his father's real estate development company, Trump Son. Based in Brooklyn, the company focused primarily on building middle-income housing, and it was already a successful enterprise by the time Donald joined. Initial projects. Donald's early responsibilities at the company involved overseeing construction sites and rental buildings, and he was quickly given the reins for some of the company's projects. One of his first significant tasks was the revamping of Swifton Village, an apartment complex in Cincinnati, Ohio. The complex was losing money, and Trump was tasked with turning it around, which he did with some success by improving its occupancy rates. Learning from Fred Trump, these initial years were very much a training ground for Donald Trump. His father, Fred, was a shrewd business person and a disciplined developer. From Fred, Donald learned the ins and outs of real estate development, including financing, negotiation, construction management, and tenant relations. Fred's business philosophy focused on government-subsidized housing projects, which brought steady cash flow and minimized risks. Trump's ambition. While Donald Trump valued his father's focus on risk aversion and stable income streams, he had loftier ambitions. Unlike Fred, who never ventured far from the outer boroughs of New York City, Donald set his sights on Manhattan. He wanted to make it big in the world of luxury real estate and was keen to attach his name to iconic, high-profile projects. Transition to Manhattan. By the early 1970s, Donald Trump began making moves into Manhattan. In part, he was encouraged by the economic conditions of New York City, which was going through a tough period marked by high crime rates and a financial crisis. He saw opportunities where others saw risks, using his knack for public relations to generate buzz around his projects. Trump managed to obtain options on several pieces of property, including a foreclosed Pennsylvania railroad yard on the west side of Manhattan. Although the initial plans for luxury housing on this site fell through, Trump's ambition to transform the Manhattan skyline was evident. Move to Manhattan. Donald Trump's move to Manhattan in the early 1970s was a significant transition in his career, marking a shift from his father's focus on middle-income housing in the outer boroughs of New York City to high-stakes, high-profile real estate ventures. This move was more than just a change of location. It represented a pivot in ambition and scale that would define Trump's career and public persona. Commodore Hotel Project. One of Trump's first significant undertakings in Manhattan was the renovation of the Commodore Hotel, a deteriorating structure adjacent to Grand Central Terminal. At the time, New York City was in a state of financial crisis, and the area around Grand Central was run down. The Hyatt Hotel Corporation and Trump entered into a partnership to transform the Commodore into a modern hotel. To finance the project, Trump secured a $70 million construction loan jointly guaranteed by Fred Trump and the Hyatt Hotel Corporation. What really set the project apart was Trump's unprecedented 40-year tax abatement negotiation with the city to save the hotel from property taxes for 4 decades. The renovated hotel, named the Grand Hyatt New York, opened in 1980 and was an immediate success, turning a neglected area into a business hub. Trump Tower, another iconic project that solidified Trump's reputation as a Manhattan developer, was the Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue. Completed in 1983, the 58-story building combined retail, office, and residential spaces. To make way for the tower, Trump controversially demolished the Bonwit Teller building but failed to preserve some of its Art Deco features as initially promised, drawing criticism from conservationists. Trump Tower became an instant landmark, known for its distinctive atrium and waterfall. It was also the site of the Trump Organization's headquarters and Trump's own penthouse. Trump Tower not only became a symbol of luxury, but also came to represent Trump's brand and style: bold, opulent, and media-savvy. Trump Plaza and other ventures. Beyond these hallmark projects, Trump also developed Trump Plaza, a 39-story condominium building on 3rd Avenue which opened in 1984. In the subsequent years, he would go on to develop additional projects in Manhattan, including Trump Palace, a 55-story condominium building, and Trump World Tower near the United Nations headquarters. Financing and connections. An essential aspect of Trump's move to Manhattan was his ability to secure financing and leverage connections. With his father's reputation backing him and his own growing track record, Trump had access to loans and tax benefits that other developers could only dream of. However, these financial arrangements would come under scrutiny later in his career, especially his relationships with banks and other financial institutions. Impact on public persona. Trump's move to Manhattan was not just a business decision, but also a calculated branding move. His high-profile projects garnered significant media attention, both positive and negative, solidifying his image as a daring and sometimes controversial figure in the real estate world. The Manhattan ventures gave him a platform to establish himself as not just a business tycoon, but also a celebrity in his own right. Donald Trump's move to Manhattan was a transformative phase in his career, shaping not just his business empire but also his public image. The projects he undertook were ambitious and risky, but ultimately helped to solidify his reputation as a major player in New York City real estate. From leveraging financing and connections to skillful branding and media relations, Trump's Manhattan years were a masterclass in high-stakes, high-reward real estate development. Atlantic City. Donald Trump's foray into Atlantic City casinos in the late 1970s and 1980s marked a significant expansion and diversification of his business interests. While he had gained considerable notoriety for his ambitious real estate projects in Manhattan, venturing into the gaming industry was a different challenge altogether. Trump's Atlantic City endeavors were characterized by initial success, followed by financial struggles and multiple bankruptcies. Trump's entry into Atlantic City. Donald Trump entered the Atlantic City scene in 1981 when New Jersey legalized casino gambling. At the time, Atlantic City was envisioned as the East Coast alternative to Las Vegas. Seeing an opportunity, Trump acquired a property at the famous boardwalk and opened Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in 1984. The casino was developed in partnership with Harrah's, a casino operating company. Trump Plaza was an instant success, further enhancing Trump's reputation as a developer of high-profile projects. Expansion and branding. Encouraged by the success of Trump Plaza, he moved aggressively to expand his holdings in Atlantic City. He opened Trump's Castle, later renamed Trump Marina, in 1985, aimed at a slightly less affluent demographic compared to Trump Plaza. But the most ambitious of his Atlantic City ventures was the Trump Taj Mahal. Trump Taj Mahal opened its doors in 1990 after significant construction delays and cost overruns. Billed as the eighth wonder of the world, the casino was extravagant, featuring elaborate decor, high-end eateries, and a vast gaming floor. Despite its grandeur, the Taj Mahal was burdened with considerable debt, largely due to its construction costs and the use of junk bonds for financing. Financial troubles and bankruptcy. The financial performance of Trump's Atlantic City casinos began to decline by the early 90s, coinciding with a broader economic downturn. Trump Taj Mahal filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 1991, just a year after opening. The reorganization allowed it to emerge from bankruptcy, but Trump had to sell off many assets and significantly reduce his ownership stake. Trump Plaza and Trump Marina faced similar financial struggles and went through bankruptcy reorganizations. Despite these setbacks, Trump remained involved in the Atlantic City casino scene throughout the 90s and early 2000s, albeit with diminishing influence. The aftermath. By 2014, Trump had virtually exited the Atlantic City casino business. Trump Plaza closed in September of that year, and Trump Taj Mahal followed in 2016, although by this time, Trump no longer held ownership. Trump's Atlantic City era left a lasting impression on the city for both good and ill. While he was credited with bringing attention and investment to Atlantic City during its heyday, the multiple bankruptcies and financial struggles associated with his casinos were seen as emblematic of the city's decline. Impact on Trump's career. The Atlantic City casino ventures are often cited as both a testament to Trump's ambitious risk-taking and a cautionary tale of the perils of over-leverage. These experiences also provided Trump with valuable lessons in dealing with financial distress and bankruptcy, albeit with varying degrees of success. Despite the numerous challenges and controversies, Trump often portrays his Atlantic City years as a valuable learning experience. In summary, Donald Trump's Atlantic City casino ventures represent a tumultuous chapter in his business career. Defined by initial success and subsequent financial challenges, this period is a complex part of Trump's business narrative. Later projects. Trump continued his real estate ventures throughout the 90s and 2000s with various degrees of success. These include Trump World Tower at United Nations Plaza, Trump Place on the Hudson River, and various international projects, including Trump-branded buildings in Turkey, the Philippines, and elsewhere. After his turbulent years in Atlantic City, Donald Trump returned his focus to real estate development, reality television, and branding. He also began to explore projects outside the United States. His post-Atlantic City period was characterized by a mixture of successful ventures and controversies. Real estate projects in the U.S. Trump World Tower, deposed in 2001. Trump World Tower is a residential skyscraper located across from the United Nations headquarters in New York City. At the time of its completion, it was the tallest all-residential tower in the world. Trump Place. This is a multi-building development along the Hudson River in New York City. Trump was initially a part of this project, but later sold his interests, although the buildings retained the Trump name until 2016, when residents voted to remove it. International real estate projects. Trump began extending his real estate brand internationally in the early 2000s. Trump International Hotel and Tower. This series of developments include high-rises in cities like Chicago, Las Vegas, Toronto, Panama City, and Istanbul, among others. However, it's essential to note that many of these buildings are not owned by Trump, but rather license his name. Golf courses. Trump also invested in golf courses around the world, including Scotland and Ireland. These properties have been sources of local controversy, mainly due to environmental concerns and clashes with local residents. Branding and licensing. Trump's name became a brand, and he licensed it to a wide variety of products. From steaks and water to a board game and even a university. Trump University, launched in 2005, is for-profit education company offered courses in real estate, asset management, and entrepreneurship. It was not an accredited institution and faced multiple lawsuits for misleading advertising and fraud. It ultimately shut down, and Trump settled the lawsuits for $25 million in 2016. Reality television. The Apprentice premiered in 2004 and was a massive hit. It featured Trump as the host and central figure, increasing his visibility and cementing his reputation as a savvy business mogul. The show ran for 14 seasons and had a spin-off, The Celebrity Apprentice. Donald Trump's venture into reality television marked a significant turning point in his career, providing him with a platform that reached millions of Americans and bolstering his public persona as a shrewd, no-nonsense business mogul. The most notable of his television endeavors was The Apprentice, which premiered on NBC in 2004. The Apprentice was a competitive reality show where contestants vied for a managerial job in one of Trump's companies. Each week, Trump assigned the contestants a business-related task, at the end of which one or more participants were fired during a boardroom session. The show's catchphrase, "You're fired," delivered by Trump, became a part of American pop culture. The show was an instant success, drawing high ratings and garnering positive reviews. The first season finale was watched by an estimated 28 million viewers, making it one of the most watched television episodes of the year. Trump was praised for his on-screen presence and quickly became a household name even among those who had little interest in the world of business. Financial impact. The Apprentice and its spin-offs provided Trump with a significant income stream. According to various reports, Trump earned hundreds of thousands of dollars per episode, and the show's success led to a number of additional licensing and branding opportunities. Cultural impact. The show significantly impacted Trump's image, transforming him from a real estate mogul with a string of controversies into a television star and pop culture icon. It gave him a platform to showcase his personality and business acumen to the American public and also allowed him to interact with celebrities and other high-profile individuals, further raising his public profile. The Celebrity Apprentice. The initial format of The Apprentice evolved into The Celebrity Apprentice in 2008, where celebrities competed to win money for their chosen charities rather than a job offer from Trump. This version also proved popular and featured a wide range of personalities from the worlds of entertainment, sports, and politics. Controversies and criticisms. Despite its success, the show was not without controversy. Questions were raised about the editing of the show to create specific narratives, and some former contestants later criticized the show for being more about entertainment than a genuine representation of business competence. The credibility of the show's portrayal of business success also came under scrutiny, especially after various reports questioned the success of several of Trump's own businesses. Preceding political ambitions. Trump's time on reality television may have served as a precursor to his political ambitions. The skills he owned as a television host, commanding attention, shaping narratives, and building his brand, proved to be valuable in the political arena. When Trump announced his presidential run in 2015, he was already a well-known figure, not just as a businessman but also as a television personality. Worky 2. Reality television was a transformative experience in Donald Trump's career. The Apprentice and The Celebrity Apprentice offered him a unique platform to broaden his reach, refine his public image, and build a diverse fan base that would later prove advantageous during his political career. While reality TV was far removed from the worlds of real estate and casinos, it provided Trump with a vehicle to expand his brand and influence, adding a new layer of complexity to his multifaceted career. Donald Trump's personal life has been as much a subject of public scrutiny and media attention as his business and political careers. Marriages, relationships, family, and his lifestyle have all been extensively covered, often contributing to his public persona. Marriages and relationships. Trump has been married 3 times. His first marriage was to Czech model Ivana Zelníková in 1977. The couple had 3 children, Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. The marriage ended in a highly publicized divorce in 1992. In 1993, Trump married actress Marla Maples. They have 1 daughter, Tiffany. This marriage also ended in divorce, finalized in 1999. In 2005, Trump married Melania Nos, a model from Slovenia. They have 1 son, Baron, born in 2006. Melania was the First Lady of the United States during Trump's presidency from 2017 to 2021. Children and their roles. Trump's children from his first marriage, Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric, have been actively involved in the family business and played significant roles during his presidential campaign and administration. Ivanka served as an advisor to the president, and her husband, Jared Kushner, was a senior advisor, focusing on various domestic and international issues. Donald Jr. and Eric took over the day-to-day operations of the Trump Organization during Trump's presidency. Tiffany, his daughter from his second marriage, has kept a relatively lower profile compared to her half-siblings. Barron, his youngest son, was mostly shielded from the public eye during Trump's presidency due to his young age. Lifestyle. Trump is known for his lavish lifestyle, living in a triplex penthouse in Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue in New York City before moving to the White House. He is also known for his affinity for golf. He owns several golf courses around the world. Health. Trump's health has been a subject of public interest, especially during his presidency. He is known for his aversion to alcohol and smoking, a decision influenced by the alcohol-related death of his older brother, Fred Trump Jr. during his presidency. Trump contracted COVID-19 but recovered after receiving treatment. Controversies. Trump's personal life has not been without controversy. He has faced allegations of sexual misconduct, including harassment and assault, from multiple women, all of which he has denied. His comments about women captured in a 2005 Access Hollywood tape were a major controversy during the 2016 presidential campaign. Donald Trump's personal life, like his professional and political lives, has been colorful and fraught with both triumphs and controversies. His family, marriages, and lifestyle choices have often been in the spotlight, contributing to the complex tapestry of his public image. From his high-profile relationships and marriages to his role as a father and his lifestyle choices, Trump's personal life has been a significant aspect of his public persona. Donald Trump's presidential run, beginning with his announcement in 2015 that he would seek the Republican nomination for the 2016 U.S. presidential election, upended the American political landscape and led to one of the most tumultuous periods in modern U.S. history. Here's an overview. 2016 presidential campaign, announcement and initial reaction. Trump announced his candidacy on June 16, 2015 with a speech at Trump Tower in New York City. From the outset, his campaign was unconventional, marked by off-the-cuff remarks, a disregard for political correctness, and frequent use of social media, particularly Twitter. The initial reaction to Trump's announcement was largely skeptical. Many political analysts and pundits considered it a publicity stunt or predicted that he would be a fringe candidate. However, Trump quickly gained popularity in polls, and his rallies began drawing large crowds. Campaign themes and rhetoric. Trump's campaign was populist, nativist, and nationalist. He promised to make America great again, a slogan that encapsulated various themes. Immigration. Trump took a hard line, promising to build a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. He criticized trade agreements like NAFTA and TAPI, promising to bring jobs back to the U.S. Drain the swamp. Trump portrayed himself as an outsider who would disrupt the Washington establishment and law and order. In the wake of growing social unrest, Trump promised to restore law and order. Primaries and nomination. Trump faced a crowded field in the Republican primaries, including seasoned politicians like Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, and Marco Rubio. Despite a contentious and often acrimonious primary season, Trump emerged as the Republican nominee, marking a significant shift in the party's traditional platform. General election and victory. Trump faced Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee, in the general election. His campaign was rocked by various controversies, including the release of a 2005 Access Hollywood tape in which he made lewd comments about women. However, he was also buoyed by factors such as the FBI's investigation into Clinton's email use. On November 8, 2016, in a result that shocked many pollsters and political analysts, Trump won the Electoral College, securing 304 votes to Clinton's 227, although he lost the popular vote. Presidency 2017-2021. Trump's presidency was one of the most polarizing in American history, marked by a series of policy shifts, numerous controversies, impeachment trials, and an unprecedented level of partisan division. His administration focused on tax cuts, deregulation, criminal justice reform, and conservative judicial appointments. appointments, but was also marked by issues related to the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, relationships with allies and adversaries, and questions about the administration's ethics and legality. Donald Trump's first year as President of the United States was marked by a whirlwind of activity, policy shifts, and controversies that set the tone for his entire presidency. Sworn in on January 20, 2017, Trump faced significant challenges both domestically and internationally, while also reshaping the executive branch in his image. Here are some key points. Domestic policy. Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. One of the major policy initiatives in Trump's first year was the attempt to repeal the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. The effort, however, ultimately failed in the Senate, largely due to the opposition of a few Republican senators, including the late John McCain. Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Trump secured a major legislative victory with the passage of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in December 2017. The law significantly cut the corporate tax rate and provided temporary tax cuts for individuals. It was touted by Republicans as a catalyst for economic growth, but criticized by Democrats as a windfall for the wealthy and corporations. Deregulation. Trump focused on rolling back federal regulations, particularly those related to environmental protections and financial services. He signed several executive orders aimed at reducing the regulatory burden on businesses. Criminal justice. Attorney General Jeff Sessions reversed several Obama-era policies, including directives on criminal sentencing and civil asset forfeiture, signaling a more conservative approach to criminal justice. Foreign policy and travel ban. One of Trump's most controversial actions was the implementation of a travel ban targeting several Muslim-majority countries. The ban faced numerous legal challenges and underwent several revisions before being upheld by the Supreme Court in 2018. Relations with North Korea. Tensions with North Korea escalated in Trump's first year, marked by missile tests from North Korea and heated rhetoric from both sides. Trump famously warned of fire and fury, heightening concerns about potential military conflict. Exiting the Paris Climate Agreement. In June 2017, Trump announced that the United States would withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement, a global pact to fight climate change, drawing widespread criticism domestically and internationally. Controversies. Russia investigation. Trump's first year was overshadowed by the ongoing investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election and potential ties to the Trump campaign. Trump fired FBI Director James Comey in May 2017, leading to the appointment of Robert Mueller as special counsel to oversee the investigation. Personnel and appointments. Trump's first year saw a high turnover rate among White House staff and key administration officials. Notable departures included National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, and Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci. He successfully appointed Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, maintaining the conservative majority after the passing of Antonin Scalia. Trump's first year in office was characterized by a mix of policy achievements and setbacks, a number of controversies, and significant turnover among key personnel. It set the stage for a presidency that would continue to be marked by polarizing actions, intense media scrutiny, and deep divisions in the American political landscape. Donald Trump's second year in office, spanning 2018, continued the pattern of intense activity, policy shifts, and controversies that had characterized his first year. This period saw some notable accomplishments as well as significant challenges. Domestic policy. Government shutdown. The year closed with a government shutdown, starting in December 2018 and lasting into January 2019. The key issue was funding for Trump's proposed border wall between the United States and Mexico. The 35-day shutdown was the longest in U.S. history and ended without wall funding, though it led to further discussions about immigration policy. Criminal justice reform. One of the bipartisan highlights of Trump's second year was the passing of the First Step Act in December 2018. The act aimed to reform the criminal justice system by reducing mandatory minimum sentences for certain offenses and providing inmates with more opportunities for rehabilitation. Trade policy. Trump continued his focus on trade, imposing tariffs on a range of goods and entering into trade disputes with various countries, most notably China. The tensions led to concerns about a trade war, though some agreements were reached, including the renegotiation of NAFTA, which was replaced by the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. Terrierment in G7 foreign policy and North Korea summit. One of the most surprising and highly publicized events was the first summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong in Singapore in June 2018. While the summit was historic, substantive denuclearization steps were not agreed upon. Relations with NATO and G7 allies. Trump continued to stress the importance of NATO members meeting their defense spending commitments, leading to tensions within the alliance. Similarly, his approach to trade and tariffs created friction at the G7 summit. Withdrawal from international agreements. In addition to his earlier withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement, Trump announced the U.S. withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (PFO), in May 2018. Controversies and investigations. Mueller investigation continues. The investigation led by special counsel Robert Mueller into Russian interference in the 2016 election continued to cast a shadow over Trump's presidency. Several of Trump's former associates, like Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort, were convicted or pleaded guilty to various charges, although none were directly related to collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Family separation policy. The Trump administration's zero-tolerance immigration policy led to the separation of families at the U.S.-Mexico border, sparking national and international outrage. The policy was officially ended, but its repercussions lingered on. Personnel changes. The second year of Trump's presidency saw a continuation of high staff turnover. Notable departures included Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who was replaced by Mike Pompeo, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who was replaced initially by Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker and then by William Barr. Midterm elections. The 2018 midterm elections were a significant political event. While Republicans increased their majority in the Senate, Democrats gained control of the House of Representatives. This split in Congress set the stage for increased political gridlock. Trump's second year saw some legislative and diplomatic milestones, but was also marked by a range of controversies and the intensification of various investigations. The changing dynamics in Congress, the continued turnover among key staff, and the growing polarization in the country indicated that the remaining years of Trump's first term would be marked by increased challenges and scrutiny. Donald Trump's third year as president, covering 2019, continued to be eventful, polarizing, and fraught with controversies, but it also included key developments that would shape his legacy. Here are some pivotal points. Domestic policy, impeachment inquiry and trial. So one of the most significant developments of 2019 was the impeachment inquiry launched by the House of Representatives. The investigation focused on a whistleblower complaint about Trump's interactions with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, alleging that Trump had solicited foreign interference in the 2020 U.S. presidential election. The House impeached Trump on charges of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress in December 2019, making him the third president in U.S. history to be impeached. The Senate trial began in January 2020 and ended in acquittal. Economy. Trump's third year in office saw a continuation of economic growth with low unemployment rates and stock market highs. Trump and his administration cited these numbers as evidence of successful economic policy, although critics argued that the trends were part of a longer-term economic recovery that preceded his tenure. Gun control and mass shootings. The year was marred by a series of mass shootings, renewing the debate over gun control. Trump's responses to the incidents were mixed, sometimes suggesting support for tighter background checks and other times retreating to a more traditional Republican stance prioritizing Second Amendment rights. Foreign policy. A China trade war. The trade war with China escalated, impacting various sectors of the U.S. economy, from manufacturing to agriculture. However, a Phase 1 trade deal was signed in January 2020, which aimed to ease tensions and included Chinese commitments to purchase American goods. In relations with Iran, tensions with Iran escalated significantly in 2019, culminating in a U.S. airstrike that killed Qasem Soleimani, a high-ranking Iranian military official, in January 2020. This led to increased hostilities and concerns about potential military conflict between the U.S. and Iran. North Korea. Despite the groundbreaking summit in 2018, little substantive progress was made on North Korean denuclearization. North Korea conducted a number of short-range missile tests, complicating diplomatic efforts. Controversies. Mueller report. In April 2019, the Mueller report was released to the public. While the report did not conclude that Trump had committed a crime, it did not exonerate him either. The report outlined potential instances of obstruction of justice, but left it to Congress to decide on the matter. Racial and social issues. Trump faced criticism for his responses to several racially sensitive issues, including his comments following the passing of Congressman Elijah Cummings and the state of the city of Baltimore. His handling of these and other social issues continued to be a point of controversy and division. Personnel changes. High turnover in the Trump administration continued. Notable departures included National Security Advisor John Bolton and Secretary of Homeland Security Kirstjen Nielsen. Trump's third year was dominated by impeachment proceedings, continued economic growth, and significant foreign policy challenges. The year set the stage for an even more polarizing and eventful election year in 2020, highlighting the deep divisions within the American political landscape. The impeachment trial and ongoing controversies ensured that Trump remained a deeply polarizing figure as he sought re-election. Donald Trump's fourth year in office, covering 2020, was an extraordinary year marked by unprecedented challenges and a high-stakes presidential election. The coronavirus pandemic, social justice protests, and an election marred by disinformation allegations of fraud were some of the defining moments of this period. Domestic policy. COVID-19 pandemic. The global COVID-19 pandemic dominated Trump's fourth year. The U.S. became one of the most affected countries, with millions infected and hundreds of thousands dead. Trump's handling of the pandemic was a major point of contention. While the administration helped fast-track vaccine development through Operation Warp Speed, Trump himself was criticized for downplaying the virus and providing inconsistent public health messages. Economic fallout and stimulus packages. The pandemic led to economic shutdowns, massive unemployment, and an economic contraction. In response, Congress passed multiple stimulus packages to support struggling Americans and businesses, the largest being the CARES Act, which included direct payments to Americans and the Paycheck Protection Program for businesses. Social justice protests. The killing of George Floyd in May 2020 led to nationwide protests against police brutality and systemic racism. Trump's responses to the protests were controversial, often focusing on law and order rather than addressing the root causes of the protests. Foreign policy. Israel-UAE-Bahrain agreements. One of the high points in foreign policy was the normalization of relations between Israel and several Arab states, including the UAE and Bahrain, known as the Abraham Accords. China and who tensions with China escalated not only on the trade front, but also due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Trump announced the U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization, WHO, accusing it of being China-centric. 2020 presidential elections. The 2020 election against Democratic nominee Joe Biden was tumultuous. The widespread use of mail-in voting due to the pandemic became a focal point of contention. Trump repeatedly made claims about the likelihood of voter fraud and, after losing the election, refused to concede, alleging that the election was stolen. Controversies and legal issues. Second impeachment. Following the loss in the presidential election, Trump continued to claim that the election was fraudulent. His rhetoric culminated in a rally on January 6, 2021, after which a mob stormed the U.S. Capitol. Trump was impeached for the second time by the House of Representatives on charges of incitement of insurrection, but was acquitted once more by the Senate. Handling of COVID-19. Trump's own contraction of COVID-19 in October 2020 brought further attention to his handling of the pandemic. Despite experiencing severe symptoms and requiring hospitalization, he continued to downplay the severity of the virus upon his recovery. Personnel changes. Turnover in key positions continued, with Mark Meadows replacing Mick Mulvaney as Chief of Staff, and numerous changes in the Department of Defense and Intelligence community. Summary. Donald Trump's fourth year in office was marked by unprecedented crises that deeply affected the United States and challenged the capacities and limitations of his presidency. His handling of these crises, combined with the controversial election outcome, made for a tumultuous end to his first term in office. The second impeachment, coming just days before he left office, underscored the polarizing and contentious nature of his presidency. 2020 Presidential Campaign. Donald Trump's 2020 presidential campaign was one of the most contentious and scrutinized in modern American history, characterized by the extraordinary context of a global pandemic, a nationwide movement for racial justice, and a deeply polarized electorate. Messaging and strategy. The Trump campaign sought to build on the themes that were successful in 2016. Economic nationalism, law and order, and populist appeals against the Washington establishment. The slogan "Keep America Great" was initially chosen to highlight the administration's perceived successes, but was later dialed back as the COVID-19 pandemic worsened, reverting at times to the original "Make America Great Again" mantra. Handling of COVID-19. The pandemic posed an immense challenge for the campaign, impacting the president's ability to hold large rallies, which were a hallmark of his 2016 campaign. Trump's management of the pandemic became a major campaign issue. His reluctance to advocate mask wearing, combined with often contradictory messaging from public health officials in his administration, became contentious talking points. Virtual campaigning and rallies. Due to the pandemic, much of the campaign had to adapt to virtual methods of voter outreach. However, Trump resumed in-person rallies within a few months, despite concerns about the virus spread. These rallies were less frequent than those in 2016 and often took place in open-air venues as a concession to public health guidelines. Economic focus. As the pandemic wreaked havoc on the U.S. economy, Trump focused on the pre-pandemic economic growth as evidence of his leadership, promising a rapid economic recovery, often summed up as the Great American Comeback. Law and order and social issues. In the wake of the social justice protests that swept the country following the killing of George Floyd, Trump positioned himself as the law and order candidate, pledging to restore peace and combat what he described as radical left-wing movements. The presidential debates were another significant aspect of the campaign, especially the first debate, which was widely criticized for its chaotic nature and frequent interruptions. After Trump contracted COVID-19, the second debate was canceled, replaced by dueling town halls featuring each candidate. The third debate proceeded as planned and was generally seen as more substantive and traditional than the first. Post-election period. After Election Day, the Trump campaign launched numerous legal challenges to the vote, claiming without substantiated evidence that the election was stolen through widespread voter fraud. These legal efforts were largely unsuccessful, and numerous recounts and audits confirmed the integrity of the electoral process. Donald Trump's 2020 campaign was a multifaceted endeavor marked by unprecedented challenges. The campaign was waged against a backdrop of a global pandemic, economic uncertainty, and national unrest, significantly affecting both the message and the logistics of the campaign. The post-election period, characterized by numerous legal and rhetorical challenges to the electoral outcome, extended the contentious nature of the campaign well beyond Election Day and had lasting implications for American democracy. Post-election period and second impeachment. After the 2020 election, Trump refused to concede, alleging that the election was stolen. His legal team filed a flurry of lawsuits challenging the results. Trump was impeached for a second time by the House of Representatives following the storming of the U.S. Capitol by his supporters on January 6, 2021. He was later acquitted by the Senate. Financial controversies. Even as Trump's profile grew, so did the scrutiny of his business practices. Donald Trump's business career has been marked by a series of financial controversies that have attracted significant media attention, legal scrutiny, and public debate. While Trump has often framed these experiences as typical of any high-profile entrepreneur, critics argue that they highlight questionable business practices. Some of the most notable financial controversies include bankruptcies. While Donald Trump has never personally filed for bankruptcy, his companies have done so 6 times, primarily those related to casino operations in Atlantic City. These bankruptcies often involved complex negotiations with creditors and were seen by critics as evidence of poor business management. Trump, however, has contended that utilizing bankruptcy laws, as a business strategy is a common practice and that he successfully rebuilt his empire after each setback. Trump University. Launched in 2005, Trump University was a for-profit education company that offered courses in real estate, asset management, and entrepreneurship. It faced multiple lawsuits over false advertising and fraud, accused of misleading students into believing they would receive a formal education and personal mentoring from experts handpicked by Trump. The venture was never an accredited educational institution, and Trump eventually agreed to a $25 million settlement in 2016, although he admitted no wrongdoing. Finances and tax returns. Trump has been highly secretive about his personal finances, breaking with decades of tradition. By refusing to release his tax returns during his 2016 and 2020 presidential campaigns, in September 2020, the New York Times reported that Trump had paid only $750 in federal income taxes in the year he won the presidency, and another $750 in his first year in office. The report also raised questions about the legality of certain deductions and the overall complexity of Trump's financial arrangements, conflicts of interest, and emoluments. As president, Trump faced unprecedented scrutiny regarding the potential conflicts of interest between his business empire and his role as head of state. Although he handed the management of the Trump Organization to his sons, he did not divest himself of ownership. Critics argued that this arrangement was insufficient to prevent conflicts of interest, and that foreign and domestic entities might seek to curry favor by patronizing Trump's businesses. These concerns led to multiple lawsuits based on the emoluments clauses of the U.S. Constitution, although none have led to a definitive legal branding and licensing. Trump capitalized on his rising fame by licensing his name to various products and properties, including Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka, and Trump University, an online education company that later faced legal issues for misleading marketing practices and was eventually shut down. Trump also licensed his name to buildings around the world, receiving royalties from these deals. Donald Trump's involvement in branding and licensing has been a significant aspect of his business career and contributes to his public image as a real estate mogul and entrepreneur. Unlike the more traditional aspects of real estate development, which involve buying property and developing it, licensing allows Trump to earn money by attaching his name to a project, even if he has little to no role in building or financing it. Here's how it has unfolded over the years. Early ventures. Trump's foray into branding arguably began with Trump Tower in New York City, completed in 1983. Though it was a development he spearheaded, the project was instrumental in establishing the Trump name as synonymous with luxury and opulence. Expansion. In the years that followed, Trump expanded his licensing efforts both domestically and internationally. Hotels, resorts, and residential towers around the world have carried the Trump name, from Trump Tower Istanbul in Turkey to the Trump International Hotel and Tower in Vancouver, Canada. Trump even licensed his name to a range of consumer products including steaks, water, and a board game. The Apprentice. His involvement in the reality TV show The Apprentice further solidified Trump as a brand. It led to a line of merchandise, including clothing and accessories, often sold through major retailers. The show's catchphrase, "You're fired," also got its own trademark application. Brand image. Trump's brand is often associated with luxury, opulence, and success. This image was carefully crafted through strategic media appearances, including cameos in movies and TV shows, as well as in written works, with Trump authoring several books on business and success, most notably The Art of the Deal. Controversies. However, the Trump brand hasn't been without its controversies. Several projects with Trump's name have faced financial difficulties or legal troubles. For example, Trump University, a for-profit educational company, was the subject of multiple lawsuits alleging fraudulent practices. Trump eventually settled, agreeing to pay $25 million, but admitting no wrongdoing. Political impact. His presidential campaign and Trump's subsequent time in office have had a mixed impact on the Trump brand. While his political profile elevated the name to even greater global prominence, it has also led to a form of brand polarization. Businesses and properties have both adopted and dropped the Trump name based on changing public opinion and political considerations. Post-presidency. After leaving the presidency, Trump returned to his business ventures. But the impact of his political career on the Trump brand remains a topic of much debate. While he continues to have a large and devoted following, the divisiveness of his tenure as president, along with legal and financial challenges, have raised questions about the future value and viability of the Trump brand. Donald Trump's approach to branding and licensing has been as unconventional as many other aspects of his career. The Trump brand, fortified by strategic marketing, media appearances, and a range of licensed products and properties, became a significant source of revenue and public recognition for him. However, the brand has been tested by various controversies, as well as the polarizing effects of his political career. The ultimate legacy of the Trump brand remains. Donald Trump's business career is a tapestry of ambitious projects, high-stakes gambles, and headline-grabbing endeavors. His shift from middle-income housing projects in the outer boroughs of New York to luxury real estate in Manhattan marked his rise as a high-profile businessman. Later, his ventures into media and politics made him one of the most recognizable figures in the United States. While marked by both notable successes and significant controversies, Trump's business career has undeniably shaped his public persona and had a considerable influence on his political career.